Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Inga Cotton. I'm the founder and executive director of San Antonio Charter Moms, and these are Charter Moms Chats. Today, we're featuring Royal Public Schools, and we've shared the enrollment guide blog post on our channels. You can find it on the top of the list right now at sachartermoms.com. That's where we have all of our enrollment guide blog posts, but I'm really excited to get to talk to members of the Royal Public Schools team because this really brings the stories to life. So let me introduce our guests from Royal Public Schools. So in the middle of the screen is Dr. Sonar Tarim, and he is the founder and CEO of Royal Public Schools. And then on the far side of the screen is Gabby Patton, and she is the K-8 principal at Royal Public Schools. And you might have caught Gabby on the Charter Moms Chats last month because she's new to Royal Public Schools. We got a chance to welcome her to her campus. So Sonar and Gabby, thank you for joining me on Charter Moms Chats.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Okay. So I always like to start out, just assume some of our audience may not have heard of Royal Public Schools yet. And so, Sonar, I was wondering, can you talk more about the mission and vision of Royal Public Schools?
Yeah, Inga, before I begin mission vision, I really want to thank you and your organization, San Antonio Charter Moms, for being the lighthouse for many families. You are the really true lighthouse because a lot of people don't know which school to choose, what is the best fit for their children. So I greatly appreciate for that.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot. I know you've been helping us on our journey. We've been helping you all on your journey to open the school. So that means a lot to me.
Thank you. So yes, we are relatively new. This is our third year in San Antonio. And our mission is intentionally selected is to spark our student natural curiosity and love of learning and to provide them knowledge and skills that they need to lead successful and fulfilling life. Really, this mission, think about it. Every child, when they are born, they are curious. And what we want to really do is to provide skills and knowledge necessary so they can, fulfill and succeed, continue a successful life. When it comes to mission, vision is we want to establish an educational system that prepares curious, knowledgeable, responsible, and well-rounded, future leaders. That's, in a nutshell, that's what we want to do here in San Antonio.
Thank you. Gabby, did you want to chime in on that? Or actually, my next question is more about like the academics. So do you want to dive into that?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. So like in the blog post, we've got details about things like the Royal Block and like Streams 360. So can you talk about the academics? That's a big part of what SHR Moms is trying to do is help families get their kids into high performing schools to create a brighter future for their kid, like the vision that Sonar just laid out.
Yeah. So I'm very happy that we are kind of taking a step with the other high performing charter schools in the area and using the Amplify curriculum for our RLA program K-8. The thing that I personally love about Amplify is it really challenges students to reach into the conceptual or into like a meta frame of thinking, which allows them to be able to solidify their learning in a way that's much more tangible, right? It's less of content regurgitation and more of content integration, which actually aligns really well with our Streams 365 and our Streams 360. I'm so sorry, it's been a long day. Our Streams 360, as well as our project-based component. So Amplify, helping students to reach into that conceptual learning, really helps to integrate all of those things together. And something that we had discussed last time, Inga, was the great part about Streams 360 is that extra S on the end there, that Streams 360 is our social emotional component. And Amplify does a really great job giving students an opportunity to achieve really high levels of learning and reading, as well as comprehension and internalization, while giving them the social emotional component of like free writing, bringing in a lot of different cultures so that students understand the importance of living in a world where there are multiple cultures and there are multiple places, social locations to be in. And so it gives them a really good foray into that, as well as on the counter with the math is our Eureka and our Carnegie math. Both of those also take a conceptual approach to learning, much more aligned to what would be considered a Common Core approach, in that it is skill and conceptualism based, as opposed to content regurgitation. So when we think about content, we think about like memorizing and spitting out, or we think about developing learning. Both Eureka and Amplify build the skills within students internally to have that intrinsic motivation and like perpetuation forward. We couple that with the same great assessments that we see in other high-performing charters, like the NWEA map, which helps us to learn about the student's baseline in their reading and their mathematics. And then we combine it all together in a project, which gives us our Streams 360, which is this whole like integration approach where students are not just working on one thing, they're integrating all of their learning into either a project or a formative assessment, and they have the opportunity to tie all those things together. And then we enrich that with our Streams 360 enrichment, which we have on Fridays, which is completely socially emotionally based. So it's actually based on student preference and student enjoyment, and it's all about building those skills of like working together. It's all about building the skills of having the interpersonal connections and learning how to connect and communicate into the world that we live in today. So we have all kinds of we have a tech enrichment, we have an art enrichment, which is like sculptures and Play-Doh. We have baking. So we have our second grade, they do a baking enrichment. And it's just this really fun, active way for students to start putting those pieces together. Every part of that enrichment also includes the academic piece. So like a free write or a reflection or some type of assessment or project that culminates it all together. So we're really trying to integrate educating the entire student the entire day and the entire week, not just an SEL class here or an SEL class there, a math curriculum, a social studies curriculum. Like, no, we like integrate math with science. We integrate social studies with ELAR. Like, those are really important skills for kids. And it's awesome that is Dr. Tarim's vision, because as a principal, like, you couldn't ask for more. That's so counter to traditional education, ISD or charter. It is so counter that it is often like, you can't do that. And then you find it and you're like, no, we can really do this. And it's awesome. So it's been great.
Like, if I take our audience, one step back, Inga, like we all know as a parent, children learn differently. Like we need to, move away from one size fits all model. If that's the purpose, we all know every child, they're different, learn differently. So Stream 360, for those who don't know, Stream 360 is a STEM education on a kind of like a steroid with reading, art, and social emotional learning. So that kind of like makes our school unique than any other school in not only in San Antonio but in Texas. This is a brand new program. With the model that Gabby was talking about is basically, it's a unique holistic approach that encompasses whole child, and that includes also a royal block that in any given day there is a set aside time and space that children, whether for intervention or enrichment, the children, if they're behind the subject level, they will be in their royal block, with the one-on-one teacher support, they're going to advance. For those, children who are advanced, again, they will have opportunity to go more, beyond what they are learning. So it's totally unique, offering that we are providing here in San Antonio for our students.
Yeah. Sona, I remember talking to you like while, during the application process and while this was all under development. And I'm so impressed with the like the thoughtfulness that goes into it. And, one thing I haven't touched on is that where the campus is located, it's an area that's been historically underserved. And so you have students coming in who, are at a variety of different levels. And, Gabby mentioned like doing testing to find out where they're at. But, the Royal Block is important because you get each student what they need. And I also want to commend Gabby for naming like specific types of curriculums. I know we have members in our discussion group who like whenever I share a video or something, well, Inga, did you ask like what is the reading curriculum? What is the math curriculum? So thank you for addressing that, because like, parents, as they get more and more informed, like they ask these questions and they want to know, and it's part of what what trade-offs they're making about, do I choose this school or that school? And they want all the elements. They want kids to be able to do the project-based learning and have fun and feel like they belong at school, but they also want the kids to be making strong academic progress.
Yeah, we were very fortunate that we started our school right after, actually, literally on the verge of pandemic. We established this program, and during that time, State of Texas Education Agency promote, amplify, Eureka Med, Zern, all these new high quality instructional materials, and we actually participate this grant. We received this grant. Maybe we are one of the few lucky school districts or charter schools in the state of Texas that really implement these high quality instructional materials. And we know that these are scientifically proven, and it's going to help children that we get on any given day. And it will take time, though. Sometimes we hear that this instructional materials, very advanced program, but we know that it's proven and it's going to help. It takes time. And we have seen already the improvement in our children's scores.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think it's worth mentioning too that curriculums like that, especially for parents who are trying to decide on the learning portion, when we think about student learning and we think about like, oh, I want them to be prepared for college, I want them to be prepared for those things. Those are the things that prepare them. If we think back to when we were students, right? The things that prepared us the most were the things that stuck with us the most. And the things that stuck with us are often those experiences where we had to struggle, right? Like where we had to have a productive struggle. And the great thing about the instructional material that we use, it doesn't only create that, but it encourages that. So students really have to engage with the curriculum in a very high level of thinking that most people, even adults, aren't used to. And so it just takes time to train the brain to think that way when we're used to thinking of learning or participating in academics in a different way, right? So that is what makes them so unique, is that they really, really support the higher order thinking in students.
Right. Like you said, it's not just putting in some facts in your brain, repeating those facts again. It's more like it's wrestling with the concepts.
Yes.
So that, I remember anything hands-on, it would stick more. And if you know why it works that way, then you're better able to take on the next challenge.
And I think you also mentioned about the building and location, if I remember, Inga. So yes, we took over, maybe one of the oldest school building in San Antonio. It was built in 1921 as a Catholic school here in the Southside of San Antonio, only 5 to 7 minutes away from Riverwalk. And we are very proud of our school. Has a lot of spirit. Has a lot of incredible sense of ownership that we on everyone else feel. I have parents. They come here. They tell us that they were student once in this building and attended either Catholic school or the later it was actually used by another charter school in here in San Antonio, and we did a lot of upgrade. And soon we're going to build hopefully a middle school, high school building. Even though we have middle school grades here, we have enough space, but we're going to build a brand new building in about a year or two.
Yeah, it's an extraordinary building, and I appreciate like the large like common spaces that you have, like I guess like what used to be the auditorium, and then but now it's like just a big open space, and families can gather there, and students can have presentations there, and yeah, amazing upgrades, like all the new windows and stuff, and it stays nice and cool in the AC.
Yes, especially now we need a cooler time.
Yeah, we do. So one of the things I wanted to ask, so Gabby touched on this, but so Royal opened during the pandemic, and you mentioned about the social emotional learning aspect and what role the school. I remember when I visited the campus, like the like school counselors like play a role in checking on the well-being of the students, because I feel like we're still experiencing kind of the effects of students having gone through the pandemic, had a lot of disruption in their learning. So yeah, can you talk more about the social emotional learning aspect?
Yeah. If I jump quickly, Ms. Patton. So yes, I mean we have a full-time counselor. I'm a true believer of having a counselor on site, helping students. Regardless of pandemic, right? But because of pandemic, really, I've seen incredible damage that happened to our students and their ability to learn, and there's a huge gap happen, and it's obviously you've seen the results from state results that shows that loss learning loss and psychological impact on their behavior. So it's still this year I see less and less. It's actually like going away, and I see our attitude towards parents and students coming to school, and attendance is going up naturally. I mean, last year before, I think I hear this from everybody that attendance and enrollment was were low for many schools. So I think this year is much better. But in terms of us, obviously having a full-time counselor on the side and then offering a social emotional learning support for students and as well as teachers, it's a blessing for us here. So that's it's important for us.
Gabby, can you add on more about the social emotional?
Oh yeah. So the counselor is a huge part of our social emotional program. One is that her availability to students, right? Like she is in the hallway with the students. She is very much like everybody knows who Miss Ullman is. Like we have rotations for kids who, need a little bit more one-on-one time with her, who need like those specific counseling moments. And then we also utilize her to help educate the student body as a whole through creating like SEL specific and targeted lessons, which the kids do engage with at their block, that during their SEL block. However, we also integrate SEL through our disciplinary procedures and through our campus culture. So we practice kind of like a hybrid of restorative practices where we pair a heavy emphasis on positive motivation, positive reinforcement, and reintegration into the classroom. We still recognize that there's another side to that, right? Like a lot of times you find schools that are in two factions. They're either a restorative school or they're a traditional, right? We kind of take an approach to both, where we say like, hey, some things do require a level of like actual discipline to keep kids safe, right? Like there's things that we have to do to keep every student in the building safe and learning at the highest level that they can. So we recognize that there are times where we're going to have to step into a little bit more punitive space. But what we do different on that side is that when students come back, there's a reintegration process with the parents, with the students, with the staff, with the teachers and the kids in the classroom. And in that, it's very socially, emotionally attuned, because it is teaching students how to come back from consequence, right? A lot of times we see expulsions happen or we see suspensions happen, and that's it. And that kid is done. And then what did they really learn other than they did this thing and they got sent home? They didn't learn how to mend the conflict. They didn't learn how to reintegrate when they might be embarrassed or when they might have those other feelings. And conversely, the other students need to learn how to reset, start over, forgive, right? Those are things that we need to learn as adults. And that is what social emotional learning is it focuses on the actual behaviors and like things that we have to learn, that we often learn the hard way as adults, right? Like most of us have gone through an experience where we can be like, yeah, I learned not to lie because this one time I did this one thing and it was terrible, right? And it impacted me. This is actually a direct teach on like, this is how you come back from failure, or this is how you come back from consequence. This is how you continue to empower yourself. And we integrate that in everything that we do, from the utilization of Miss Ullman to how we ask teachers to respond and redirect students, to our discipline system. It's a part of everything that we do, because we believe that once a student is in our school, they're ours. And it's our responsibility to educate them and to love them and to help grow them into the people that they want to be. If we become overly punitive, or we'll lose that joy, and we'll lose that connection to our students. So it's really important. It's like the glue of our school, honestly.
Yeah. Well, this is it comes up a lot with like parents' questions. Like they're concerned about how discipline is handled on campus, and what you're talking about, a balance, makes sense. That like you must keep the students safe, right? Whether that's from external threats, having
Right.
good locks on the doors or alert systems, but also like student safety is essential. But like if something happens, you want it to be a learning opportunity.
Right.
For the student who made the mistake and for the students around them, so they can keep building those skills. Because like, Sumner talked about, learning loss, and, it's not just math or reading that students got behind in, but it was also these interpersonal skills that they didn't have as much chance to grow and practice when they were more isolated.
Yeah. And we definitely see that in the older grades because of where they were in their development at the time of the pandemic, right? Like that's a hugely important time for students to be social and to be learning those things. Is if you take a second grader, we backtrack to fourth grade, so that means they missed fifth and sixth, 12, like 11, 12, 13, those are those formative years. That's why we always talk about like what it's like teaching middle school, or what it's like having middle schoolers, is because they're trying to figure it out and they're missing a base from being out of social life because of the pandemic. And so it is definitely a learning curve in that as well. We very much incentivize positive behaviors, and we've seen that as long as we are overly incentivizing those, any other type of thing we might deal with kind of naturally puts itself to the side, and we're able to deal with that on a one-on-one type of situation. So I think the way that we're integrating that is really helped with the social learning loss.
So let me tell you, Inga, I've been doing this for, I don't know how many years. I'm old, charter school education, right? And when I started, we had a discipline point system back 25 years ago. If the children behave well, they get positive points. If they do something wrong, they get negative points. You punish them, right? And of course, Miss Patton joined us along with a couple other people. They institute, dojo points, all right? So maybe she will talk about that dojo points. So they are giving always positive points, and we have a dojo shop. Children can. She can talk about that. And the other day, I went downstairs and I said, Ms. Vera, so tell me about, do they get negative points and you deduct something? She said, no, sir. I said, why? I said, oh, we don't punish kids. We just always positive behavior. I said, no, you have to. I said, no more. Okay, so it's a like whole different dynamic that what we started 25 years ago. It's really totally different. And I want Ms. Patton to talk about a little bit about class dojo.
Yeah.
They use class dojo very effectively here in the school.
Yeah, we love it. We love classroom dojo. So including
including teachers.
Yes, The teachers are on Dojo 2, so they get Dojo points, and they have a teacher Dojo store for showing, for meeting their expectations. Because I came in and a lot of things changed, and that's a difficult thing for people. Often change is difficult for everyone, and everyone wants to know what they're doing right. And so I was like, one day I was like, let's put the teachers on Dojo. It's been great, but the reason why we don't give negative points or we don't punish is because if we do that, we're giving attention to the negative behaviors. We're feeding the negative behaviors, right? So if I have a student that won't stop talking, and instead of pulling that student aside at a point and having a conversation and being like, hey, like, why today we're really struggling today? Like, what's going on? Was it too much sugar? Was it instead of having that conversation, I'm able to just, negative point, and then move past it. Student never has an opportunity to explain or try or even come back from a negative behavior. If we just focus on rewarding the positive and then taking those outlier behaviors on a one-to-one basis, which is where we were talking about that kind of balance, we're not even giving credence to negative behaviors. So what it eventually then turns into, which by the end of the year, I would bet my paycheck that this is what it turns into, is students create the culture on their own. And everyone is expecting everyone to do what they're supposed to do to move through, because their learning and their incentives and stuff depend on that. So we do that by motivating the positive. So I think before we had the first Dojo store, kids were like, yeah, Dojo store. Now, when we say things and we say, okay, so now we had a behavior, now we're having a recurring behavior. So a consequence for this is that you're going to lose the Dojo store. No, I'm not going to lose the Dojo store. It's like, okay, well then I need you to change your behavior. Great. 9 times out of 10, that's the switch. And so it's this SEL framework, right? Like we are disciplining, teaching, coaching from an asset-based mindset versus a deficit mindset. So always bringing out what people do well and using that to guide them on their areas of growth, right? Like, hey, you're really good at math. What do you like about math? Like, what makes it so great for you? Oh, I like to use my brain to compute. I wonder if we could take that and apply it to ELA. How can we make that a problem? Like, how can we solve a problem in ELA like that? Versus you do really well in math and you're really not strong at reading. Those are two very different messages, right? So we focus on the asset building as opposed to the deficit, demerit type of thing. And that's why we use Classroom Dojo. We also use it as our communication platform because parents can see everything that students are rewarded. And how great is it to be a parent and open up your dojo, and instead of seeing 15 negative points, you see, even if you just see 2 positive points, like, hey, how come you didn't get more positive points today? Usually you get 5 or 6. Now you only got 2. It just changes the mindset around behavior. And while it does take time, I've seen a shift already in how our kiddos respond and the staff is responding to that. It's just a little bit different than what we have known before, so.
And Inga, you need to come visit us when the dojo store is open, which is only Friday night now.
Yeah, first Friday of every month.
And we have hundreds, I'm not kidding, hundreds of different, items in the store. And kids are lining up to, cash or exchange their class dojo points to purchase things. So.
That sounds really fun. I'm thinking, okay, how can I earn some dojo points before I go?
Me too. I was like, I don't get a dojo. I was just giving people points. I don't get any points.
I can enjoy it vicariously. Yeah, that sounds really fun. Yeah. Wow. Well, okay. Well, that leads into the next question, which is, what kind of, and this is something I experienced when I was on campus, was getting the chance to talk to parents, caregivers, grandparents. So what kind of feedback and stories are you hearing from the parents, caregivers about their experience at Royal?
I mean, I can personally say, we finished our second year, and towards the end of the school year, which is in May, we had meetings with our parents, last year parents, and I did a survey, anonymous, hard copy survey. I gave it to every parent who came to school, and asked, 10 10, 11 questions. Some of them yes, no. Some of them rank us, 1 to 5, which one you like, and it's all. They don't need to write their names, and of course, I can comfortably say, the question talk about, do you like our curriculum? Do you like teachers? Do you like everybody from faculty, building, academic program, social activities? Almost, over 90% of our parents either choose number 4 or 5, being the, good and excellent, And then last question was, would you recommend us to your friend or another parent? 100% of parents said yes. And that's, to me, a testimony what our teachers are doing in our school on every given day. I mean, teaching is not easy, especially after pandemic. So I'm really proud of our teachers, our support from our parents, that every day they bring their children to our school in the morning and pick them up in the afternoon. So I'm very, optimistic, and I'm, very proud to say we get a lot of support from everyone in our school community. And Ms. Patton, obviously, even though she's new, she's been here almost several months. She has seen, I'm sure, the impact of the relationship with parents.
Yeah, absolutely. And we, something that is a challenge that I didn't quite anticipate was the level of love and loyalty the founding families had to the at the time existing program and all of those things. And so when I came in with changes and things like that, at first it was different for everyone, but even still, we have experienced like a huge turnaround of that. Like parents have really gotten behind the school, and they've really gotten behind the teachers and the kids, because I think the proof is kind of like in the pudding. Like the kids are coming home, they like being at school, they love to be at school. That's the thing that I hear a lot, and that makes me so happy, is parents are telling me like, I have to move maybe to like Northwest San Antonio, and I do not want my kids to leave Royal. Like they're so happy here. And that's what every principal, and that's what I think what that's why we do this, is so that the kids are cared for. And so to hear that not only like, yeah, they're learning, that's wonderful, but they love their school, they love their teachers, they love their friends, like that means the world to us. And, I tend to be a pretty communicative person in general. And so I spend a lot of time on Classroom Dojo, like engaging with parents. They message me directly. I will go on and like speak to them. I post our newsletter through there. And so we have like a really good, I think we're forming a really good parent community. And we're getting ready to introduce our parent teacher organization, thanks to Ms. Ruiz. And so like we're getting to involve families even more. It's really like there's a lot of great they're moving pieces, but they're really beautiful moving pieces. So I'm really excited to see the picture at the end of the year when we get to like step back and say like, hey, like what do we do this year? I'm really excited about it.
Well, Gabby, you took the words out of my mouth, because I was thinking before you said it, that like just from my interactions with you, you are a strong communicator. And another thing you said earlier was change is hard. Change is stressful for kids, for adults, for systems. But the more you communicate, the more you can build trust in the changes, and that it's for a good purpose. And so it makes sense what you're saying. It's like my experience with you is that you take the time, you have the humility and the care to explain what's going on, and that gets people on board. And then you can have a whole team and a whole community that's backing the change.
Yeah, I appreciate that a lot. But yeah, I just, like they say, it takes a village to raise a kid. It takes like 5 villages to run a school. So I am in no position to turn down any feedback especially from my families, because we do this for them. And so that has always, since I taught myself, has always been to engage the family community. because it's y'all's kids, it's their kids. Like this is their life. Like they are trusting us every day with like their most precious thing. Like the least, we can do is, hey, we're gonna make some changes. I don't know if you'll like them, but I'm gonna let you know they're happening, and then we'll see. And then if we don't like them, I welcome the feedback. Like, please tell me what could be better. How could we do it better next time? We're always learning and we're always growing. That's part of being an educator is you just have to take it in, you learn, and then you try again.
Yeah. Well, y'all have already shared great stories. Soner, I appreciate your story about getting the feedback from parents, and but do y'all have more stories about like the beginning of the school year and how things have gone so far?
I have one.
Yeah.
We probably have a few. I actually just had a family come in yesterday. Well, mom pick up her kids from after school care. And one of the things that's really exciting about it, one of the things that's really exciting right now is our growth of our student body. With growth comes necessity, right? So when we grow, we take in more kids. That means we have to have more resources. We have to have more things. We have to have more chairs, more desks. Eventually, we get to a point where we have to have more classrooms, more teachers, and that's can be a tricky thing to navigate once the year has started. People, reasonably so, are pretty good with like changes of placement and teachers when they are prior to the school year. However, when you're 3 weeks in, 4 weeks in, it's less comforting. But we did have to increase some cohorts and we did have to hire for some vacancies. And so I had some parents who were like, hey, like, I really don't like how long this classroom has been vacant. Like, I know that you have a good person in there, but that person is not a full-time teacher. She's one of our staff members. She's working to become a teacher. She's excellent. She doesn't have the classroom experience, but that was somebody who I trusted to be in there with our kids as opposed to a random substitute from wherever, right? So I was like, just stick with me. It's taking a while because I'm not going to just put someone in those rooms. Like, I'm not going to just throw a body in the room so that we can have a body in the room. I won't do that to your kids. Just stick with me. Just stick with me. It was it was about 3.5 weeks of just stick with me. Like, I promise I'm looking. I promise. I was like, I promise. And we did. We found excellent people to come in. It took a little, maneuvering and some shifting, but we ended up closing those vacancies and filling those cohorts. And then just yesterday, she came to pick up her kids and she was like, I apologize that I was so worried, because she was like, but I'm a mom and like I didn't want to feel like my kids were being guinea pigs. Like I didn't want them to feel the transition. I was like, I understand. I really do. And she was like, I couldn't be happier with his teachers. I could not be happier. And I was like, I'm so glad to hear that, Ms. Dorman. Like, I'm so, so happy, because that was my priority in getting somebody in there. It wasn't just someone. It was someone who's going to take care of your baby. Like, and to see like the relief, and then to hear, her just, I trust you. Like, from now on, like, just tell me. And I'm like, okay. Like, it's creating that trust. It's 100% doing that. And I mean, I have a lot of stories of like, you weren't my favorite person 3 weeks ago, but now I love you and I love Royal. And that's only because, right, like we said, change is inevitable, and discomfort from change is as inevitable as change. And so, I was a little bit braced for impact, because I was like, these people don't know who I am. Like, so, but after having got to know them understanding the rationale behind why we're doing these things, and then seeing the consistency as well as the fruition, right? Like, we're not just changing dismissal to change dismissal. I'm changing dismissal because I need to make sure every single one of these 350 kids is safe from entrance to leaving. That changes the perspective on things. And so I'm actually really grateful to my families to have received that feedback in the beginning, because it really was like something that I needed to step back and reflect on and be like, I'm new. This was their school before it was my school. And so like, I need to hear that and I need to take that in. And I think we've found a really good middle ground, like, and it's been great. Like my parents are like, I love my parents. Like, they're wonderful. So, personally, I'm sure Dr. Tarim has more.
Well, I know, I just, I'll interject. Hiring the right teachers it's like, if there's one thing that a head of school can do properly, if you just do that, like, that is so important. And I'm speaking as a parent, that's my observation from visiting schools, but also as a parent. So like, so I'm really happy to hear, and I'm glad you're getting that feedback that it was worth the wait to find the right teachers.
Me too.
Yeah, my motto is do not hire a teacher that you want to fire.
Yep.
So it's really important. I mean, it's finding the right person who are caring, have a heart in children education. It's not easy, especially as we all complain about, people leaving the profession. But still, we have lots of people, especially in our school, of course, who care about our children and really want to help. Especially, that this Southside in general struggle academically in many schools. But our really goal is to make sure the entire community in the Southside, it's we just enrich it and make sure this is the best place for our children.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Well, we've covered. You guys have shared great stories, and we've talked about specific things like about curriculum and stuff like that. But I want to make sure before we close out that we share like the how-tos with families. So this has been very moving. I mean, Royal keeps evolving, and like, Soner, you put in place, strong academics already, right, with Streams 360 and the Royal block, but bring in these specific types of curriculum, bringing the project-based learning to life and the social emotional learning, and then hearing these stories about how the campus is evolving. I mean, so my hope is that families listening to this and reading the blog post, that they get curious about Royal, because maybe they haven't heard of it before, but now they realize that there's this really special school on the South Side, but like Soner said, very close to downtown, so accessible for families who maybe work downtown. So families hopefully they're excited and they're curious. How can they learn more about Royal?
So my first always advice is, of course, they can Google us and check our website royaltx.org. That's the easiest way. Or they can call us, 210-531-0300. But your children, I say to parents, your children is your investment, and you don't want to just Google and believe on the website whatever you see colorful things. I advise to come, and before you decide to school, I mean, your website provides a lot of information at all the schools. The best thing I would say, just come to school, look at the building, meet with parents, meet other parents and teachers. Then you decide this is the right fit for your child, school, for your child. This is to me, it's the one thing you invest is that this time you have to invest and search the best school for your child. I truly believe that Royal is the best fit. The program they provide, Stream 360, Royal Block, and everything else that Ms. Patton mentioned, I feel that we can cater everybody's needs because it's a project-based learning, individualized attention. But of course, don't take my word, don't take our word. Come visit school. 99% of the people who come walk into the building, meet with our administrators and teachers, they enroll this school. So that's a testimony that I can share with you. You are muted.
Sorry, Eric. Gabby, did you want to add on to that about what you say to families when they come visit?
Yeah, I mean, I tell families pretty much all of this. Like, when we go through the tour, we talk about like what happens in those rooms, like what are the kids learning, like what competitions are they getting ready to do, like what are we planning to bring to the school, what feedback do y'all have that you would want to see in a school, like maybe we can, and maybe that's something that our existing families are looking for too. We just want to create the ownership for our families and for our kiddos in our school. And so that's the best way to do it. Like, come in, see where your kid is going to end up, what class they're going to be in, meet the teachers, like learn to love, our Miss Raina. She sings all the time. She's got a very loud voice, so you can hear her throughout the halls, and it's beautiful. Come see what we do, like see how we roll. Because we're here to serve kids, and we're here to serve whoever walks through our door. So we already choose you. We just want to know if you choose us. So the best way to do that is to come participate.
Yeah. And just FYI, we do provide transportation. This year we started kind of like pilot program. We have 2 buses, going around in the city. But if there's a more demand, then definitely we can have more transportation.
Yeah, that's great. That creates a lot more access. Okay, so I'm gonna just offer some key points for families who are maybe new to school search and stuff. And I encourage families, like our Facebook group is really great for answering questions about how this stuff works. But I agree, the royaltx.org website is a great place to start. A family can fill out an application on there. There are a few seats for the current school year. Is that correct?
Yes, I think in the first grade, second grade, and 7th and 8th grade. First and second, maybe 2, 3 slots. 7th and 8th grade, we do have space.
Okay, so there's limited slots in the current school year, so currently serving grades K through 8, and then adding 9th grade next year, right? And with the idea of a middle school, high school building is on the horizon. So limited spots for the current school year, and then, like, it feels weird to say it, but 2024-25, which is the next school year. So y'all are going to have open enrollment for that, and October 1st is when folks can start applying if they're planning ahead for the next school year, right?
Yes.
And I would advise that people try to apply early, because we are, especially in the elementary, we're getting ready to start a wait list. And so, the only seats then that we have open are any matriculation that would happen into the next year. And so I really, really encourage people to apply as early as possible, especially for kinder and 9th, because those are our most open at the moment, as they are not full, and they're going to fill very quickly. So apply quickly.
Yeah. So, and we're looking forward to hosting you guys at School Discovery Days too. So those are going to kick off in October. So yes. Okay. Well, great. Well, I feel like I've learned so much about Royal today, and I'm really excited to be sharing this with our audience. And please keep me posted as new things develop. So I'm really proud of what you guys are building.
Thank you for having us, Inga.
Thank you, Inga.
All right. Take care. Have a good evening.
Bye.
Bye.